When I say Toyota, what comes to mind? The ubiquitous Camry, the appliance-like Corolla, the rugged and popular Tacoma. Maybe it brings back memories of your first car, an old hand-me-down Corolla with missing wheel covers that you and your friends used to jump the train tracks on Friday nights. I'm glad you survived. Toyota has become a household name, and today we'll be taking a closer look into their supply chain. What has helped them get there, some challenges that the current automotive supply chain faces, and what lessons we can learn from these supply chains, and how we can integrate them into our own entrepreneurial endeavors. First, let's take a moment to discuss exactly what a supply chain is. A supply chain is a network between a company and its suppliers to produce and distribute a specific product to the final buyer. This network includes different activities, people, entities, information, and resources. The supply chain also represents the steps it takes to get the product or service from its original state to the consumer. Each vehicle produced has thousands of parts made from different materials, performing different functions, coming from all over the world. Navigating this complex web is difficult, but Toyota has distinguished themselves as a leader in this area, and here are a few ways they have done so. Number one, Toyota works closely as they can with their suppliers. There are in and out house departments at Toyota that work with suppliers implementing improvement measures. Number two, Toyota is always pursuing more reasonably priced and higher quality products. This involves Toyota's individual decisions making a part-based cross-functional team with suppliers. Together, they can run the designing and the production process. And three, Toyota has built a disaster-resilient supply chain. Given that it takes so many different parts to make a car, a disaster in any part of the world is likely to impact their supply chain in one way or another. They have been able to produce a resilient supply chain by building trust with their suppliers, so information can flow freely from the suppliers to Toyota. Of course, these are only a few ways that Toyota has mastered the supply chain management. But what about some of the supply chain issues that face the collective automotive world? Number one, here are a few reasons. Number one, the impact of external factors significantly disrupts the automotive supply chain. Hurricanes, droughts, political unrest, coronavirus, all can affect the supply chain. Manufacturers can mitigate these disruptions by conducting risk identification and creating contingency plans. Number two, lack of visibility and high fixed and variable cost impact profitability for automotive manufacturers. Some items like lithium for batteries, chips for computers, and all the expensive materials in catalytic converters don't come cheap. Manufacturers can navigate these issues by creating robust contracts with suppliers, using predictive analytics and audit pricing and costs on a regular basis to ensure the best price is being achieved. And three, poor quality manufacturing leads to failure and product recalls. This is a problem that even Toyota has faced in the past. Remember the infamous sticking accelerator debacle Toyota experienced about 10 years ago? Or GM's ignition switch disaster? Some manufacturing failures and oversights can be minor, but some can have terrible and lasting effects. Manufacturers can avoid these potential disastrous risks by conducting quality audits and implementing rigorous batch control and tracking to quickly identify and mitigate faulty parts. So, we've talked a lot about Toyota's supply chain and some of the supply chain challenges in the automotive world. And all of this information is fine and good and interesting, but how does it apply to us? After all, probably none of us are spending millions of dollars a year on inventory. Maybe some of us are sourcing flour or lumber or gravel instead of highly refined steel or complex batteries. What can we, as entrepreneurs, small business owners, and just regular old people learn from this? From my research, here are a few things that I've learned. 1. We must allow our supply chains to be adaptable. We live on Earth, and millions of things can go wrong and a million things can change. We must design our supply chains with adaptability in mind. 2. We must allow our customers and consumers to shape our supply chain. A Toyota executive once said, "There is one thing to maximize, and that is customer satisfaction. Everything else is a constraint." Have you ever known a person who's hated their Camry? My mom still sings praises about her Sienna that she owned over 10 years ago. Successful businesses have satisfied customers, and it starts with the supply chain. 3. Even though our supply chains can be small or low scale, they can still be very complicated. Tom Wuhek has taught us that we have a natural ability to break complex things into small steps, and then reassemble them in an intuitive way. We need to learn to harness that ability by thinking simply and working together with others. Ladies and gentlemen, there are always opportunities to learn and grow and become better. Just look up. And thank you for listening.